Warm-up's done. Time to kick this off. Battle Royale. You've got gas closing in fast. Get to the safe zone. Primary objective is to kill them all.
Poor bag. I'll take you out in a minute.
Survive and you can redeploy. You can practice your aim while you wait. Taunting your enemy is an effective way to get inside their heads. So is a well-placed start. Fight.
I got a game trapped in my head, and I can't quite get it down because I don't have.
Listen up, soldier. Win here and you return to the front line. But if you lose, you're done. You're up, soldier. Now go sort this fucker out. Looking a little worse right now. You're heading back to base. Fought hard out there. Return to base for debrief.
how to get all this stuff for a lot cheaper. Okay, so first, go to one of your favorite games.
On beginning CSS. Today we're going to look at inheritance and overriding. And those are two important concepts to understand in beginning CSS. Now, in order to discuss CSS inheritance, we have to talk about the HTML hierarchy that we talked about in the beginning tutorial set on HTML. Now, you will remember if you watched that series that HTML is based off a hierarchy. That is, HTML is the root element, and then we have elements that are nested within inside HTML. So there's the body element, and there's the head element. And then there's elements that are nested within the body element and the head element. So it acts as a hierarchy. And what do you get with a hierarchy? You get inheritance. Now, we don't care about the head element because we don't style anything in there. Remember, we put our CSS in there. But everything that we are styling goes against elements that are within the body element. So that's all we care about. Now, we will use the code we used from the last video. And you will remember that we embedded 4 elements inside our body element. We had 2 paragraph elements and an H1 and an H2 element. And so those are nested within the body element. So that's the hierarchy. It goes from the HTML root element to the body element and to any elements that we put inside the body. Furthermore, we can nest elements inside the P and H1 and H2 elements, but we will get to that later on. Now, it's also useful to build something out like this for your website so you can get an idea of how your element tags are arranged. So this is always helpful to build something like this. So this represents the code we'll be looking at right now. Now, the way inheritance works is that if we go ahead and style against the body element, all the child elements under the parent element in this case is the body element, and the child elements are all the elements below it. So the way this works is, let's say we want to universally change the color of the font for all of our elements embedded within the body element. And in order to do that, we would create a rule that affected the font color, and that would go against the body element. And then all of the child elements would inherit that. And I will show you guys that right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open up the source from the HTML document we used from the last video. And here we have, of course, the HTML root element. Here is the head element that is nested with inside of it, and here is our body element. And of course we have our H1 and H2 elements as well as our paragraph elements right here. So those 4 elements you just saw. Now, if we go back up to our CSS here, we created a rule to change the color of the paragraph elements to red. So we're going to go ahead and, actually let's copy and paste this, because now we're going to go ahead and create a rule against the body, what I just talked about. And we're going to go ahead and remove everything except for the color, and we're going to change the color of the text to green. And we're going to get rid of this rule right here. We'll come back to this in a minute. We're going to get rid of that. And we will change this to body. And now we've got a rule that goes against the body. So we're going to be at the top of the hierarchy here. We're hitting right here the body element tag. And now all the text in here now should be changed to green. So let's go ahead and save that. And we'll open it up. And there you can see all of our tags within that body element inherited that green font color. And the key here is we did not have to specify. Let's go back to the code. I'll show you this. And the key to understanding this is we did not have to specify any green color in any of these CSS rules. They simply inherited from the body rule because that is, again, at the top of the hierarchy. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, how do I individually change the color for each one of these now, since everything will be green? But what if I wanted the paragraph elements to have that color red again? I still wanted to retain that, yet I wanted everything else to be green. Well, that's where overriding comes into play. So if we just copy and paste this here, and change this to red, this rule now will override this one. So inheritance only works is if you don't have an identical rule in the child elements. But if you override it, this will be red now. And I will show that to you. So let's go ahead and save this. And you can see here now that the paragraph elements are red. We overrided the rule that we had against the body. But the H1 and H2 elements remain green because we didn't have any specific rule there to override H2. That to you. So let's go ahead and save this. Child elements. Inheritance only, so I still wanted to retain that, yet I wanted everything else to be green. Well, that's where overriding comes into play. So if we just copy and paste this here and change this to red, this rule now will override this rule. So inheritance only works is if you don't have an identical rule in the child elements. But if you override it, this will be red now, and I will show that to you. So let's go ahead and save this. And you can see here now that the paragraph elements are red. We overrided the rule that we had against the body, but the H1 and H2 elements
They only brought them back for one match.
We didn't have any specific rule there to override our CSS body rule. And so that's how that works. I will see you guys in the next video.
You know what? Yeah, I'm done going there.
Your primary...
Huh.
Welcome to the Gulag. If you survive, you earn your freedom. We got a proper fight here.
Actually, you know what I should be watching
Time for a bit of argy-bargy.
instead of the CSS?
Get yourself sorted, you're up next.
Game designing.
You win this fight, you return to the front line. If you lose, you're done here. You're up, soldier. Now go sort this fucker out. You're heading back to base.
I've always loved sci-fi, and the idea of being stuck on the frontiers of space.
Hey everyone, this is Mark Wahlbeck, and in this exciting video, I'm going to teach you how to build a very simple game in Unreal Engine. And the point of this video is to get you up and running fast with the basic features of the Unreal Engine and Blueprint. So, the very first thing you need to do before you can do this tutorial is download the Unreal Engine. And you can do that at unrealengine.com. And after you download and install it on either Mac or Windows, come back and let's get started. So with Unreal Engine open, I'm going to go to New Project.
You hold on 1 minute. Come on, Candy. Let's go outside because I need you wait.
Are you jealous because I got the promotion and you didn't? I'm jealous of my job. How many times do I have to say it behind the screen? I made a mistake. It was a one-time thing. I wish I could believe that. You were looking for reasons to stay angry. That's always better. When Jolene was little, and it was just the three of us. Happy on a little bubble. Before I burst it. Is that what you're saying?
And then what I'm going to do is click first person.
Oh, thank God.
And what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new basic project. So go ahead and give your project a name. We're going to call this Evil Cube. And we're going to create the project. So by default, you'll see a scene here with some things going on. You can play with that later. Right now, we're just going to dive in and build something new from scratch. So what I'm going to do is go to File, New Level. That's how you create new levels in Unreal. And we're going to click Empty. I'm going to click Command S or Control S to save. And I'm going to save this map here, or this level. We're going to call this Evil Cube Map. You can call yours whatever you want. Now this is literally an empty level, so we have to build our environment. So we're going to go to Geometry. We're going to grab a cube and place it here in the scene, in the viewport. Now what I'm going to do is press R to get this in scale mode. And I'm going to scale it down to make sort of a floor. And if you are having issues with your scaling, and you want it smaller or bigger, you can go up here and click the scaling options and change it to a smaller or bigger size as you're scaling. And what we're going to do is on the right hand side, we're going to give it a larger size. So in the X and the Y, we're going to say 2000 by 2000. And for the height, we're going to say 50. And now we've got this nice little box here. One problem we have though is there's no lights in our scene. If I switch this from unlit to lit, you're going to notice it's very dark in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to lights on the left hand side over here, and we're going to drag in a directional light. And I'm going to turn down the intensity of this on the right hand side over here slightly, like so. You can put yours at whatever you like. That looks great. Now what I'm also going to do is grab a skylight and drag that in here as well too. That's going to give us a nice extra ambient light here. And on the right hand side where it says source type under light, I'm going to change this to cube map. And I'm going to click from none, and we're going to select Epic Courtyard Daylight. And that's just going to add a little bit extra daylight to our scene here. Now if I go over here in the middle of the floor and click play, you're going to see that my character has been dropped in the middle and there's a gun and I can shoot. Pretty cool, right? So, if you're brand new to the Unreal Editor, you can move around by pressing A, D, W, S, move around the screen like this, no big deal, and you can hold down your mouse button to look around, almost just like a first-person video game, okay?
Oh, I
So what
fucking
we want
love
to
it.
do is in our game, we want to have a character shoot evil cubes. These cubes are mad at us, and they're coming right at us, and they can knock us off the platform. We want to shoot them, we want to make them explode, because every good game has an explosion or two. So how do we do that? We've created the game. We already have the character that's been pre-built into the template that Unreal has provided to us. So what we need to do is create an artificial intelligence, slap it on a cube, and make that cube matrix destroy. So let's start with that. Your content folder here, you can see some of the folders that are in your project already. We're going to create a new folder by right-clicking and going to New Folder. We're going to type in blueprints. And I'm going to double-click inside the folder. And in here, I'm going to right-click. We're going to go to the new blueprint class. What I want to do is create an artificial intelligence, which we don't have on this list here. So I'm going to go to all classes, and I'm going to type in AI, and you're going to see something called AI controller. Select that, and then we're going to say Evil Cube AI. Now you can double-click your Evil Cube AI, and it's going to load up the blueprint editor to maximize my screen here. And in your blueprint editor, you're going to see a viewport, a construction script, an event graph, and this is where we can actually start building out our artificial intelligence.
Yeah, hold on there, evil cube guy. Although this is going to be useless, well, not useless to me, obviously, because they're talking about the AIs and shit, but like...
Enemy soldier incoming.
So what we want to do is have an artificial intelligence that seeks out the player and follows them around, follows you, okay? So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to go to my event graph real quick, okay? And you're going to see some events here like begin play. This is what will be called when your game starts, or rather when this object comes to life in your game. There's an event here that's going to be called. That's not what we want to use specifically, particularly. What we want to do is when it comes to life, we want to actually have it begin player. So we'll use this begin play, but we won't use the event too. So what should happen or rather when this object comes to life? Well, what we want to do is we want an AI to go ahead and start moving after the player. So I'm going to right click, type in AI move to, and you're going to see an item here that says AI move to. This is a pre-built series of functions and other blueprints under the hood created by Unreal that makes working with artificial intelligence very easy. And so what we want to do is we want this artificial intelligence to come after our character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag from target actor, and I'm going to type in get player character. So it's going to find a player character in the scene. If there's not one in the scene, this is going to return null and nothing's going to happen. But we do have one in the scene. That's already provided for us, which is really nice. And it's going to grab player index 0. So it's going to grab the first item it finds. Okay? Now the next thing we need to do is we need to get the cube itself. Okay? This is the brain, more or less. And we need to have the brain say, hey, where's our pawn, our cube? Okay, our cube is going to be our pawn. A pawn is something that can
21
be
days
or controlled inside of a game.
well,
So we need to
pretty much 22 days
so
until
similar with the pawn.
the nuke
We can drag
drops.
it over here. Say get controlled pawn.
Oh, I
And it's going
can't
to go ahead
wait.
and find a pawn that's attached to this artificial intelligence object. Now we haven't actually attached the pawn or the cube to this AI yet. Right now we're just setting up the brain. So this is cool, but if I do begin playing and plug it into this, it's going to be called once, and then it's going to stop working. So if the player's running around, it's going to grab the player's location, right here, the character, and it's going to start moving to that location, but once it gets there, it's going to stop. It's going to stop following the player. So we need a way to keep letting this artificial intelligence know to keep looking. And that's why we're going to create a timer. We're going to right click here and we're going to type in set timer by function name. And we're going to type in a function name, whatever we want, and ours particularly is going to be called follow player, like so. And we want it to be called every 1 second, so we want it to repeat a lot, and then yes, we want to loop it. And then what I'll do is I'll right click here, say add custom event, and we're going to call it the exact same name that we just typed in. Follow player. Wonderful. And so now what I'm going to do is when this object comes to life, when begin play is called, and Unreal Engine is going to call this for us, we can drag this node over to the set timer to start this timer. And then what we can do now with our custom event of follow player is we can put that over here in the AI move to. So when the game starts, what's going to happen is it's going to call this function every 1 second. And then this function will start the AI move to. So every 1 second it's going to try and find the new location of the player and come after him. So this is looking really good. And what I'm going to do is click compile. And you should see a green check mark on here. And then I'm going to click save. So now we have the brain. The brain is up and running. We don't actually have the cube yet, so that's the next thing to create. So we're going to right click here in our blueprint folder. We're going to go to blueprint class. And in this case, what we want to use is a pawn. And we're going to call this evil cube.
Playtime's over, mate. You're going
Remember, a
to
pawn is something that can be controlled or moved around inside of a level. You can do similar things.
Battle Royale. You've got gas closing in fast. Get to the safe zone. All right, lads, let's get it done. Hostile dropping into the area. Watch the skies. Supply box ready for pickup. Objectives update. Move to the next one. Enemy UAV overhead. Objectives update. Move to the next location. Gas inbound. Enemy UAV overhead. Contract complete. All supply boxes located. Enemy UAV overhead. Loadout drop inbound. Enemy UAV overhead.
Setting waypoint.
Enemy UAV overhead. Enemy soldier incoming. Friendly loadout drop on the way. Gas is inbound. Marking new safe zone. Enemy UAV overhead. Gas is inbound.
Things with an actor, but a pawn is specifically something that is controllable or controlled, and it works great with artificial intelligence. So with our evil cube pawn selected, we're going to double click that. And what we want to do is actually have a mesh. We want to show something on the screen. And a blueprint, like we just created, a blueprint is like a series of components and meshes and things that are useful. It's like a cube that can do things and can be controlled by things, and then we can drag it into our game or dynamically load it. And so what we want to do is have a cube show up on visible to the player.
Time to earn your freedom.
We're going to go down to cube. Now this cube is pretty huge, so I'm going to click my cube here, press R, and then in the middle, making sure all the gizmos are selected, I'm just going to drag to make it smaller. And over here on the right hand side, you can see it's 5.
Why knife fucking kill?
You want to change your color? You can double click this material here to open the
Fucking
material
bullshit.
editor. You can click color, and then you can click the color down here to change your color to something different if you would like something different. In our case, we're going to change it to pink. I'm going to click apply and close out of the material editor. And now we have our cube here, but it's not really doing anything yet. It's just a basic cube. So one thing I know that we're going to need is we're going to need something that's going to make this cube movable. It can't move. The artificial intelligence can't move it itself. It has to have like an engine, something that moves it. So we can add a component onto our cube to move it. Floating pawn movement. We're going to click that. Now our cube has the ability to move. If I click floating pawn movement, which is a component, you're going to see some different things available for you to change, such as max speed, acceleration, etc. So here we have our lonely little cube, our evil cube, sitting here inside of this viewport here. Now we can click compile and save. This is looking good. Now the next thing we need to do, click our evil cube pawn up here at the top, and then where it says AI controller class under the pawn section, we want to change this to our new AI controller, because we want this pawn to be controlled by an artificial intelligence. And ours was called Evil Cube AI. Dun dun dun. So here's our Evil Cube AI. I'm going to click compile, click save, and close out of the blueprint editor. Now, what I want to do is just see if anything is working at all. And it's not going to work, and I'll tell you why, but we can drag this cube over here, like so. I'm going to press W to move it into move mode, and I'm going to click play. So with the cube here, it's not doing anything, but you can tell that the physics is working on it, at least the collider is, not gravity. So nothing's happening, right? So how do we get our cube to move? Well, we haven't specified navigation or volume. Rather, what we're trying to do is say, hey, where can this cube move to? The AI doesn't know. So we can go over here on the left-hand side of volumes, and we can go find nav mesh bounds. And what I want to do with this is press R to go into scale mode, and I would like to scale this to the size of our little arena here. Like so, and I'm just going to move around, kind of see, press W here to move it in the place where I think it looks good, and maybe we'll make it just a tiny bit bigger here. So this is basically setting our arena boundaries for our navigation. Okay, this AI needs to know where it can move to. And if we go to show navigation, what we want to have happen is we want anywhere where this block is to be green. If it's not green, it's not going to work. The green is telling us where the cube can move around to. So this looks pretty good here. So if I click save, play, notice that the cube came to me and it knocked me off. So already it's managed to kill me before we even got the game logic going on. So that's pretty cool, right? We had a cube here, and it's using artificial intelligence pathfinding to find the player. Now check this out. If I move, it's going to continue to find me. See how it's still just knocking me over? So it's very smart and doing a lot of work for us, and we didn't have to...
But I already have a code for free roaming where it goes wherever I want. Well, wherever it goes, wherever it wants. But I need it to the point where it follows the player on point.
Your primary objective is to kill them all. Enemy UAV overhead.
Design or logic, you want the player to be able to shoot that cube, and if that cube gets hit, you want it to explode, boom, and then destroy it. So what I'm going to do is click equal cube 1. I'm going to go here to the event graph, and I'm going to delete these events.
Time to earn your freedom.
And we're going to create 2 events. What I'm going to do is select my cube here, and right click. And you can notice it says add event for cube, call function on cube. If I deselect the cube, those are gone. So make sure you select cube up here, right click, and we want to add an event for the cube. And we want to go to collision and add on component hit. Whenever something hits this component, we want to do something. With Blueprint and Unreal, everything is based on events. Notice how it says cube here in parentheses. Make sure that it matches that. If it doesn't, it's not referencing your cube. So what do we want to have happen when a bullet hits one of the cubes? Well, we want the cube to disappear, and we also want an explosion to happen.
I've had it too.
So how do we do that? How can we create an explosion and then cause our cube to disappear? Well, first, let's focus on getting a explosion to appear in our scene here. So what we want to do is right click and then type in spawn actor from class. Attempt to spawn a new actor with the specified transform. And then what we want to do is click select class, and we want to select one of these effects here. And we want to do blueprint effect explosion. You could do something else if you want, but we're going to do explosion. Okay? And so what we want to have happen is when we hit that cube, we want it to explode. But we also need to destroy that cube as well too. Okay, we need that to disappear. And also, if you notice here on the explosion, it wants to know where the transform, where is this actually going to be exploding from? And so, what we can do is we can grab our cube. We want the explosion to happen right on our cube. So what I did is I grabbed the cube at the top left here, dragged it into the blueprint graph editor here. Alright, and so what I can do is I can get the transform of this cube and we can pass it in to the spawn transform here. So if I click from the cube and type in get transform, you're going to see get world transform. And I can move these over here, and I can take that value and pass it in here to the explosion blueprint, the spawn actor. So it's going to spawn it exactly where the cube is. But now we have a problem. If I destroy the cube before we bring out the fire, it's not going to be able to find its location. So we're going to need to make sure we have a sequenced order of operations here. And to do that, all we need to do is holding down the S key, as like Steven, is hold down S and click. And we're going to create a sequence. These will be executed in the proper order that they are drawn to here with the blueprint. So the first item that I want to do is I want to spawn an actor. Okay, we want to spawn the blueprint for the explosion. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to destroy, okay, we want to destroy our component. So how do we destroy our component? Well, what we can do is drag another instance of our cube and put it right over here. And we can drag from this, we're going to type in destroy component. Now we're not destroying the whole blueprint, the actor or the pawn. We're not destroying that, because if we do, then our explosion will stop. So we just want to destroy the cube. Okay? So let's go ahead and move these down here. I'll put these up here. And what I want to do is on the second then, is we want to destroy our cube. Okay? Now we are going to need to destroy our entire blueprint, because we don't want a whole bunch of things floating around in memory. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag from return value and click promote to variable. At the top right, we'll give it a name, and let's call this fire explosion. Okay? And with that selected, I can go down here to on end play and click the plus button. And what this has done is it's created an event for when the explosion is done playing. Pretty cool. And now what I can do is I can actually destroy the game object, or rather the entire blueprint. I can destroy it after the
Check your gear and weapons. Planes are making ready for deployment.
Yo, can you hear me?
Enough practice. Time for the real thing. Battle Royale. Set a drop point for your team, soldier. Be advised, gas is close. Proceed to the safe zone. Hostile dropping into the area. Alright, get it down. Five miles. Secure the taxi.
Establishing gateway.
Objectives updated. Move to the next location. Contract updated. New objective identified. Enemy UAV overhead. Stay sharp out there. Contract complete. All supply boxes located. Gas is moving. They're targeting.
Everyone is in safe zone.
Loadout drum heading your way. Gas is closing. Get to the new safe zone. Enemy UAV overhead. Launching rocket. Be advised, enemy team is tracking your location. Time's running out. Get to the target area. They're targeting.
Launching rocket.
Nine targets remain standing. Sort them out.
Tristinia, contact! Contact!
Gas is closing in. Contract is complete. You're cleared for higher payouts.
Requesting area recon.
UAV entering the
Everyone
area.
is in safe zone.
Be advised, are keeping for resupply. The enemy lost track of you. You're safe. Gas is moving in. New safe zone located. Buy station costs are adjusted. Targets remain. Good work. Less than 5 are still standing. Let's come back.
Explosion is done playing. So we're gonna right click and we're gonna type in destroy actor. And we're gonna drag this over to here. Okay, and the target is self, meaning this object that the blueprint's attached to. Okay, so what we have going on here is, let's go ahead and drag our on component hit to the sequence to get that started. Click compile, and it's green, that's great, save it. So what's going on here is when the cube is hit, we want to throw out an explosion, boom, okay? That looks good, that looks good, that looks good. And then when the explosion's done, we want to destroy the object altogether, the blueprint object. So I'm going to close out of this screen here, and there's our little cube. And what I'm going to do is press play, and when I shot it, it disappeared, it blew up. So it did exactly what we wanted it to do, which is pretty cool. So, the next thing we need to do to finish our game is simply have these spawn on demand. We want to spawn these actors whenever we want them to, basically. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually pretty easy. What we're going to do is, first off, go to show. I deleted that cube out of the screen, by the way. We're going to go to show, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn off navigation. I don't want to look at it right now. And I'm just going to kind of create a box for a place where we want to spawn. So if I go over here to our basic tab, I can drag in a box trigger. Okay, and I'm going to make this larger so to make sure our box actually fits in it. Move it up right about there, and I'll drag it right about there. And what I'm going to do with this box trigger is we're going to go into something called a level. So we've been creating class blueprints which can be instantiated anytime you want them. But a level blueprint is where you want to build things specifically for your level. This might be where you trigger cinematics and things specific to a level. And in our case, we want to set up our spawning specific to this level. So I'm going to go to blueprints. It doesn't have to be here. You could create a class off of this, but we're going to go to blueprints, open level blueprint. What I'm going to drag it
Warm
to
up
my
with
screen
that.
over here.
I had a
And
few
I have
people-
a reference to the trigger box. What I want to have happen is, in that trigger box, whenever the level starts, we want to start creating cubes from this location.
Battle Royale. Gas is approaching your position. Move to the safe zone.
Get ready! There's the diesel!
Enemy soldier incoming. Alright, let's get it done.
I expected that to happen.
Fight to our redeployment.
So pretty cool. So I'm going to execute this now. So what I'm going to do here is drag the trigger box over here. We'll need that in just a moment. And in the begin play, I want to start spawning. Our evil cubes. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty easy actually. We're going to right click. We're going to type in spawn AI from class. This is important. Make sure you select spawn AI, not spawn AI. And what we're going to do
While
is
you're waiting, the
upon
build
class,
screen
we're going to
is
select our evil
I need
cube
to find something to plug. Feel free to give them that as well.
and that's going to find its parent AI class that we've attached to it. All right, and now it needs a location. Where do we actually want these boxes to spawn from? Well, we can put that in our trigger box. So what I'm going to do is drag from the trigger box, and we're going to type in get location.
Listen up, soldier. Win
We'll say
here,
get
you return to
after
the front
location.
line. But if you lose,
What I
you're
can do
done.
is drag this value into location.
Go sort this fucker out.
So we want to spawn it from the trigger box, but we want to keep spawning it and spawning it and spawning it. So what do we need? If you said a timer, that's exactly right. We'll go ahead and use a timer. So we'll create another custom event because we know we're going to need it. We'll call this spawn cube. So, and then let's go ahead and set timer by function name.
I said, you stuck me with what? Get the fuck out of here.
Time's running out. Get to the target area. You're losing ground.
Fuck off. I am right.
Target sighted.
Get the fuck out of here. That's some aim spotting shit. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Motherfucker be cheating on a fucking whole new end. No fucking way you got that. That's fucking bullshit.
We'll go ahead and drag event begin play over to the timer, and the function name, what we'll do is we'll say spawn evil cube, like so. And how often do we want it to spawn? Let's say 0.5 seconds, every half second. We're going to say looping. So this is going to call our spawn evil cube function over and over again, every half second. And now we're going to drag this over to spawn AI from class, which is going to go ahead and spawn this actor, our evil cube, onto the actual map. So I'm going to click compile and save. And then let's go ahead and play the game and see what happens. And it is definitely working. Notice how they keep attacking me relentlessly. Pretty cool. And I just got knocked off the edge almost. So that's really cool. So we finished our game here, and I just want to show you one more thing. If you're wondering how can I increase the speed of my object, that's pretty easy. You can go
Grab some target practice while you can. We're deploying soon.
A vast universe, alive with the unrelenting activity and combined history of its players.
Hey guys, and welcome to another one of my tutorials. In this video, I'll be showing you how to set up zombies and zombie hordes and all the logic that you're going to need to have zombies in your game, or at least to get you started. So a few disclaimers up front. So this environment that you see, I got this from the store. If you want it, you can grab it. It's absolutely not required to follow this tutorial. You don't need it. I just have it in here to kind of demo off the logic that I wrote. But it's called Modern City Download, or Modern City Downtown with Interiors Mega Pack. Again, you don't need that at all for the tutorial, but if you want to grab it, that's what it's called. And then the zombies themselves, the models for them, I got offline. I'll mix them up, and I'll be showing you how to do that in the tutorial. But this tutorial is not focused on the art or the zombie models or the animations or anything like artistic. So some of it is like not super great because I didn't want to waste a lot of time making it like amazing when that's not the point of the tutorial. The point of the tutorial is the code and logic behind these zombies and getting them to work. So basically the
Targets are up. Get to work.
So maybe you're on some like a challenge.
The way the system kind of works is that you can have these zombies like you see right now, and once the player kind of gets close to them, they'll come and attack you. And if you shoot them, I just kind of have this hilarious like impact effect, and they kind of ragdoll. You can see the ragdoll's not great. Again, that's just because the assets, I just got them offline, and the Unreal doesn't do a great job of making like physics assets for models. But in your game, you know, hopefully you would have better ragdoll models than I do. And so these are like basic zombies, and I also have this concept of trigger boxes that kind of trigger zombies. So if I step out real quick, and I go and I look around here, you can see there's no zombies. But yeah, so that's the general idea of how it will look when you're finished. And so the system in general, the way it works is that you have this director, and the director, every time a zombie is spawned or killed, the director is aware of it, and so it keeps track. You can see over here I have max zombies. It keeps track of how many zombies there are in the world and makes sure that it doesn't ever get more than whatever you have set here. And that's mostly for performance reasons, but also for like fairness. If you have a smaller map, maybe you don't want more than 30 zombies being spawned at once so that the player doesn't get overwhelmed. So the director handles all of that, and then I also have these horde spawner. So you can see a horde spawner, it basically defines a box. So once the player gets in here, and then it also has a spawn point associated with it. And so whenever you get inside this box, it's going to spawn here, and you can specify how many you want to spawn when you get inside of this box. So a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 20, and then the location that you want to spawn them at. And that's pretty much all it is, aside from the actual logic inside of the zombies that tell them where to go. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of the system to show you kind of how it works so that you get an idea. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So we're going to be doing all of this from scratch. So go ahead and launch whatever version you have. I'm on 4.5.1. I would recommend being on that one or newer, just so you can follow along with the tutorial without any problems. And you want to go to Games down here, and then Next, and we're going to be using the first-person template. The only reason I'm using the first-person one is because he has a gun, so I can shoot them. So you could do this in third person as well, just fine. And we don't need any starter content. I'm just going to call this Horde tutorial. Go ahead and create the project. So there's a good amount of setup we're going to need to do before we can kind of jump into the actual logic of this. And the first thing I'm going to do is load up that map, and I'm just going to edit this out real quick so you guys don't have to wait. Actually, let's go ahead and wait a little bit to do that, and let's just get the zombie set up first. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go over to Mixamo if you don't already have a character that you want to use. And we're just going to be using this one for the tutorial, this little zombie guy. So if you go to characters up top and search for zombie, he should show up. Feel free to use a different one if you want. But I'm going to use this one, so I'm going to hit download. And then we want FBX and T-pose. And then we can hit download. And that's going to go ahead and download this character as an FBX file. So once that finishes downloading, show it in the folder. So all you got to do is take this download and drag it into the content folder. Actually, I don't want to drag it in there. Let's make a folder in the main content folder, and let's call it zombie. And then inside of here, let's make another free folder called resources, just to keep things organized. And then we're going to need another one called favorites eventually, so we just go ahead and make that. So in the resources folder, drag that downloaded FBX file into here, and just go ahead and make sure that
switch to offline gaming anyway. A little while.
Because she was able to do troll transport and